having to support yourself and maybe even your family with a job that pays $7.25 an hour. You'd have to work 40 hours a week to earn about $15,000 annually. With this money, you would have to buy food, a place to live, and other necessities with no room for luxuries. Many people are living their lives this way, living by paycheck to paycheck. PBS NewsHour said that in 2013, 3.3 million workers were earning minimum wage. The minimum wage right now, as most of you know, is $7.25, but some want it to be raised to $10.10. As election season approaches, government officials and workers are highly divided on if minimum wage should be increased. The three main things that need to be considered when taking a side is the positive and negative effects on workers, the businesses, and the economy. So to begin, I will present all of the positive effects increased minimum wage would bring to the workers, the businesses, and the economy. So first, the positive effects on workers. The big problem is that none of these people have enough money for the things like food, house, and other necessities. But with increased minimum wage, they will obviously have more money for these things. Also, an increased pay to the minimum wage workers would mean an increased pay for all because the money would just work itself up the occupation ladder. Next, increased minimum wage would lead to positive effects on businesses. The minimum wage workers would feel more satisfied with their job because they had more money, which would lead to a lower turnover rate. So the businesses would save monies from having to train and hire new employees. So these positive effects on workers and businesses will ultimately lead to positive effects on the economy. The economy will be positively affected because minimum wage workers will have more money, so then they will have more money to spend, which will mean more money will ripple throughout the economy, which is good for everyone. Also, these minimum wage workers are the same who mostly rely on government support, like welfare, but if they have more money, then they will no longer need this, which would lead to lower taxes for us. So after presenting all of the positive sides of minimum wage, I will now present the opposing side, why we should not increase minimum wage. So there are also negative effects on the workers. So these workers, if they have this extra money, they will have no desire for an increased education, so that means they'll never get an increased pay for jobs. So if in 10 years the minimum wage seems too low again because of inflation, they will still be in the same boat. Also, younger workers that need experience, there won't be room for them because they will have to compete with the older ones that are still in the minimum wage jobs. Minimum wage can also lead to negative impacts on businesses. Like what happens if businesses can't pay these extra raises or wages? They'll have to cut benefits, reduce hours, or hire less workers. So they argue that even if they're making more money, they may have less hours, so it just balances out. These negative effects can also have a negative impact on the economy. So when businesses can't pay this increased wage, jobs will be lost. And Patterson says 1/2 to 1 million jobs could be lost, which lead to a 0.3 or higher decrease in unemployment, which is another big problem in our society. Those against minimum wage also argue that if minimum wage is increased, the price of goods will be increased also, so it will cancel each other out. For example, McDonald's, if they had to pay their employees $15 an hour, how much would a hamburger be? It could double or triple. In conclusion, government officials and workers are divided on if minimum wage should be increased. Things that need to be considered before taking a side is the effects on the workers, the businesses, and the economy. Should we increase minimum wage to help these families rise from poverty and to boost the economy, or should we not, because ultimately it will do no good and will just cause other problems like unemployment? As election season is approaching, this is another important thing to consider before voting for our very first time.
I have some questions, Madison.
Sorry,
That's great.
Leighton.
How much do you think the minimum wage should be?
Well, personally, I don't really want it raised, but if it does, only a little bit to make up for the inflation, but I don't think it should Elizabeth.
Does each state have a different minimum wage, or is it like?
Yeah, a lot of them have raised theirs like $10, or like some cities I know have raised it to like $15. So you can kind of look at those and see what the positive and negative effects are. Yeah.
If the minimum wage was like raised, do you think more people would try getting a job, since like, if like people I know like right nowadays, if they draw unemployment, they're making about the same amount as minimum wage?
Yeah, I think more people would, because they might not think it's worth the money to like drive to work when you're only getting paid $7.25 and the gas is expensive. So yeah, they might.
Do you currently work a job where you receive minimum wage?
During the summer, yeah.
Do you feel like your work is worth more than minimum wage?
Yeah, I don't know, sometimes, but still, like, even if I make more, everything else will cost more, so I just see it canceling out, but.
Alright, good job.